It's such a pleasure to be able to harvest crops all winter long from our unheated hoop house and low tunnels. Even after months of cold and snow, there's still a lot to harvest. Today I'd like to invite you to join me as I gather a harvest from our Zone 5 garden in mid-February. So I was thinking, what can I make for dinner today that would be easy to make, delicious, and would come mostly from the garden? And I decided upon vegetarian Caesar salad wraps and Sunchoke soup. So I'll have those two recipes in mind when I gather today's harvest. Let's get started here in this cold frame by harvesting some greens. I just have to remove this cold frame lid to get started. Now, of course, Caesar salads are usually made with romaine lettuce, but I'll be using mixed greens instead. This is Siber Frill kale. This is the first year we've grown Siber Frill, and we're very happy with the results, and we'll definitely be growing it again. Right next to it is Starbor Kale, which is probably the most cold-hardy kale we've ever grown. February is actually a very exciting time of the year for us because we have more than 10 hours of daylight again, which is really important for plant growth. Temperatures are also warming, and as a result, our plants are starting to pick up in growth again. We'll even start watering our crops soon. And in just a week or so, I'll start direct sowing cool weather crops like carrots and sugar snap peas. With all of these changes, it's really more like early spring under double cover than it is midwinter. We also have some Swiss chard back here. So I want to get some tender greens like Swiss chard in the salad as well. Actually, I think this is Perpetual Spinach, which is a type of chard. And of course I want to harvest some of our wonderful lettuce. We've had great success this winter with Arctic King and Hungarian pink winter lettuce. In fact, in general, we've had the most successful winter garden ever this year. I made a number of improvements to the hoop house in the fall, which hopefully contributed to that. I added another layer of plastic to the north wall. I added reflective insulation to the north wall. I slanted these beds at a slight angle toward the sun, which should help keep the soil warmer. And I added our black buckets of water as heat sinks. Because I made so many changes this fall, it's hard to say which ones made an impact on the winter garden, but cumulatively, we certainly have seen a difference in how well our crops did. And we're seeing warmer nighttime temperatures this year compared to the outside temperature. It's not at all uncommon to have the low in the hoop house 20 degrees warmer than the low outside. Today's a great day to harvest because it's so warm in here. Everything's nice and thawed out, including the soil. So I'll try to harvest at least enough for 2 or 3 days. Well, it looks like I was able to harvest enough greens from the hoop house just using the greens here in the cold frame. I didn't even have to touch these beauties in the low tunnel. Now let's head out into the rest of the garden to harvest sunchokes and some greens from one of the hinged low tunnels. We keep the soil in our sunchoke beds from freezing as much as possible by covering the bed with storm windows. We've already harvested most of the sunchokes near the surface, so today I'll probably have to do some digging to get our sunchoke harvest. I just need a couple pounds of sunchokes to make my soup today, so hopefully I'll be able to find them. And they're very deep at this point. Nothing. So let me just dig a hole and then I'll dig in with my hands to see if I can find any. Oh, here's our first. Sure hope we have enough for soup. Anytime I talk about sunchokes, I feel obligated to remind people that they can cause gas, and some people are very sensitive to them. My wife and I find that as long as we eat them in moderation, we're okay. And I'll be making a Sunchoke soup. I'll share the recipe in the description. And we can eat a bowl or two of that soup without any problem at all. Okay, with our sunchoke harvest complete, let's cover the sunchokes back up with soil. And next I'll go harvest some greens from one of our hinged low tunnels. We weren't able to harvest from this bed at all in January because it wasn't getting enough sun, and as a result the soil and all the plants were frozen. But now that we're getting further past the winter solstice, it's getting enough sun that everything's thawed out and we can start harvesting again. In this bed we're growing our most cold-hardy crops. Crops that I knew could survive the winter, even though this bed doesn't get much sun in January and December. Among them are Mache, which is right here, Claytonia, spinach, and kale. And today I'll be focusing my harvest on Mache, which is one of our favorite cold hardy greens. This will even survive Zone 5 winters without cover. All of the Mache and Claytonia in this bed are volunteers. And all that means is in the spring we let some of the plants go to seed, drop their seeds in place, and that plants the next crop. We usually start seeing Mache come up in late fall, early winter, and then Claytonia is really just getting started. This is Claytonia. It starts really picking up in late winter, and it will really take over some of these beds in spring. Mache isn't as well known as some of the other crops I grow. If you'd like to learn more about it, please see this link. It's an excellent cold hardy green for cold climates. Very nutritious. It's also known as corn salad. Okay, that's all of the Mache I want to harvest today. Now let's head back to the hoop house to see today's final harvest. Okay, I definitely need to get a big basket to hold my harvest. These bowls and colanders are a little bit cumbersome, but here's our final harvest from mid-February. We have Mache, mixed greens including lettuce and kale, and our sunchokes. Not too shabby for February. Okay, I'm going to go in and make dinner, and I'll be back in just a moment to show you what I made. Okay, I'm back with two simple but delicious recipes made with today's harvest. First of all, we have our Sunchoke Soup, which includes sunchokes and garlic from the garden. Of course, the garlic was harvested back in July. It also includes a number of ingredients from the store, including pumpkin seeds, which you can see floating on the surface. I followed this recipe to the letter and included a link to it in the description. I also included a link to this chicken Caesar salad wrap, but I made many changes to the recipe. First of all, I used mixed greens instead of just romaine lettuce. I also added cherry tomatoes. And I made it vegetarian, so I substituted all of the non-vegetarian items with vegetarian ingredients. My favorite vegetarian chicken substitute is Beyond Meat chicken strips. Well, I need to get back inside to eat this soup while it's still hot. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.